Back once again for the renegade master. 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 Back once again for the renegade master.
Hello my renegades and welcome back. And what are we getting back into? We are getting into Love Island series 11. We are on episode 22. Again, I apologise for the late delivery of these. I have been away this weekend enjoying myself in my favourite place of all time. But I am back because while I was there, I did sit and I did manage to watch these, and my God, these people know no realms of literally the backstabbing and everything else that goes in this place. They don't want to say that they're two-faced, but they honestly are two-faced people. And the differences as well that I've seen in certain people in this place, namely Uma, and I shall get to that very, very soon. But before we get into this episode, as I always ask, please hit that subscribe button, please hit that notification button so when you know I'm on and doing videos. Please comment, like, share and do all the good stuff that you do, because I am on the road to 1k. Anyway, let's just talk about that absolute fallout from the shitstorm that was Kieran telling the truth in regards to Harriet being knocked over 3 times. I thought at that point Harriet needed to pull her big girl drawers up at the end of the day, because she sits there and she's saying, bearing in mind it was the question about who's the most two-faced in the villa. So then she sits there, I get she's angry, I get Harriet is angry, but then she sits there backbiting against Nicole and Jess. Matilda has a rash cheek because the first people that ran after Harriet was Matilda and Grace. And let's just put it this way. With Grace, misery loves company at the end of the day, because she's got shit going on with Joey that she needs to sort out, but yet she's going to put her metal into this because what? As again, misery loves company. But Matilda has a cheek because she was the one that Ed Kieran to say it again. Not Jess, not nobody else, but Matilda was the one that was stirring that pot, because the first time around Harriet had not heard what Kieran had said. It was because Matilda had told Kieran to say it again that Harriet then heard what Kieran had said. And this is my thing. Harriet gives it, she gets it put back on her, she can't take it, she either walks off in a strap or she starts crying. Then Harriet basically places herself smack bang firmly as the victim in the whole situation, and because she starts crying, now Kieran's the bad guy, now Kieran shouldn't have done that, Kieran shouldn't have made her cry. Maybe Harriet should have kept her mouth shut. Do you know what I mean? Harriet came for Kieran, so Kieran made sure he shut that shit down, and shut that shit down he did at the end of the day. And if she didn't like what was going to be brought back to him, don't have an argument with him, don't have an argument with anybody up in there, namely Jess and Kieran, because they will always handle their business when it comes to dealing with Harriet. And Harriet don't like it. Harriet wants people to always take her point of view, yeah, when she's upset, and wants everybody to malign and vilify the person who's made her upset, while she skates through under the radar scot-free after starting the whole drama. And that's what gets me about Harriet, and that's what gets me about everybody else. What? Because she's crying, she needs all of you to like, oh, Kieran's a bad guy, Kieran, you shouldn't have said that, Kieran, you shouldn't have made a woman cry. At the end of the day, Harriet was brave enough and broad enough to say what she said to Kieran. Kieran only gave back the same energy that Harriet gave to him, and Harriet can't deal with it in the slightest. So you see them talking about how Harriet shouldn't mind what Kieran says because even Ronnie's saying that you're his first choice now. And I'm like, my girls, the thing when Harriet says, well, Harriet is my first choice now, that ain't the flex that you lot think it is, because at the end of the day, it does, again, lead credence to what we've seen and watched Harriet take time after time after time with Ronnie. At the end of the day, do I think this man respects Harriet? No, I don't. Do I think he's only doing bigging up or having Harriet's back now because he's trying to save face? Yes, I do. Absolutely. Because if he didn't have her back, yeah, there'd be hell to pay on his part at the end of the day. And he sure as hell can't pair off with Jess anymore, because he's already shut that gate with Jess. He's just left it wide open for Harriet, because he knows he can get away with the shit that he gets away with Harriet. She has no freaking barriers when it comes to Ronnie at all. So Mimi does turn around and call Jess bad mind, and Jess was like, nah man, but I think Jess was kind of right, because at the end of the day, if you can't take it, don't dish it. I understand that. But then also on the flip side, sometimes Jess has a way with words and her directness. And like there's being direct and then there's being direct. And with Jess's directness, it's an I don't give a shit kind of directness. I'm going to say this whether it hurts you or not. But that kind of directness is not constructive in the slightest. So basically, Harriet's sitting there saying that Nicole should be livid in terms of what Kieran's done and what he said. And I mean, why? Why should Nicole be livid? Because at the end of the day, Kieran just said what was on his mind. He'd had enough of people keep using him as a battering ram because he's 21 years old. He'd done had enough, and Harriet just tipped him over that edge at the end of the day. So Harriet literally started that war and Kieran finished it, and she don't like it. So now she thinks that Nicole should be mad at Kieran because Kieran what made her cry. Kieran said something that hurt her, which then in turn made her cry. Why she should be mad at Kieran for that? Was it harsh? As I hear some people saying that it might have been a tad harsh in what Kieran said to her. No, not at all. Because I've seen the way that Harriet talks to some people up in there, and the words that come out of her mouth is hella harsh. Like, she was literally harsh upon Jess, let's just put it that way. But again, Jess can hold her own and Harriet can't take it. So then we move on and you see Jess, literally, Jess is just a different breed altogether, man. She turns around and she holds up her glass and she tried to do a cheers to good people. Nobody put their glasses up. They just looked at Jess like, are you for real right now? And I thought, Jess, my darling, that was a little bit off. That was a little bit off. You didn't need to do that. You raw did not need to do that to the girl. So Kieran basically explains that shit that exploded had built up in him over time. So you see Nicole and Kieran having this chat. Now, I'm going to say that Nicole is as much to blame for the situation as Harriet is at the end of the day, and Matilda by that score. And the reason why I say Nicole is as much to blame, because at the end of the day, yeah, she shouldn't go back and chat what she'd spoke about in confidence with Harriet. At the end of the day, she shouldn't have gone and chatted that to Kieran, because it had nothing in that sense to do with Kieran and their relationship. Even though Harriet was sitting there and giving her good advice and girls' advice, Harriet probably thought that that information would not get back to Kieran, but obviously pillow talk and all that shit it did. So Nicole is wrong for that one, because at the end of the day, when she's pissed at Kieran, the people that she will speak to and get pissed about Kieran to is Jess, and she did it with Harriet. So Jess and Harriet did give her advice when it came to Kieran. So I don't see Nicole telling Kieran exactly what Jess has said about him in those conversations either. It was just in turn, it seems like what Harriet's been saying on the by. But yeah, I think she should have kept that shit to herself, to be honest with you. I don't think it was on a need to know basis, and Kieran honestly did not need to know, because at the end of the day, you'd fixed your situation with Kieran. So why you gotta tell him what Harriet has been saying about him? At the end of the day, you need to give that kind of situation context, and I don't think in Nicole telling Kieran, she probably gave any context to why Harriet was saying what she was saying. My thing with Harriet and her tears, she knows what to do in order to gain sympathy, and it's to also deflect from the truth, and in turn allow for others to take the blame away from her and blame the person that has upset her, rather than looking at the thing as a whole. Because at the end of the day, Harriet's sitting there literally going at Nicole with Matilda and Grace in regards to what she sees as Nicole's non-reaction to the situation, and believing that Nicole and Jess are not her friends. That is the epitome of being two-faced, my love. Yes, you're angry. Yes, I get that. But that is the epitome of being two-faced. At the end of the day, you can't judge someone by their reaction. If you're upset by something, then you can go and have that conversation as to why you're upset by something. But you can't then expect another person to literally, because you're upset by what was said, which was the truth, to literally jump on your side because, their boyfriend made you cry. At the end of the day, Harriet was involved in that whole situation, and the person that's giving her comfort was the one that stirred the freaking pot in the first place. Harriet's basically saying that she doesn't want no apology from Kieran, and she doesn't want to ever speak to him again. But Tutu's, how much you want to bet that Harriet will want an apology from Kieran? How much you want to bet that she'll say she'll never ever speak to him again? She doesn't want no apology by him. But best believe if Kieran pulled her to one side and gave her an apology, she will give that boy to his face. She will forgive him like she's done so many other times before with everybody else. Kieran basically says that he won't speak to her at all, and I think Kieran's about that life. He will stand on business on that. He ain't gonna seek out Harriet. He ain't gonna apologise for what he said at the end of the day. So then that's when you see, after all that time, Ronnie go find Harriet and says that he should be protecting her and he don't want to see her cry. And Harriet then turns around and says, I didn't say anything. I'm like, really? You didn't say not a bean, my girl? And this is what I mean by her gaining sympathy by using her tears as a weapon against somebody else, namely Kieran. Because Kieran told the truth, she knew what the truth was, and because she hasn't set no barrier or no goals with this man, and has allowed Ronnie to play her like the fiddle that she is, she didn't like that being called about in her face, because Harriet knows the truth of it. Harriet knows the truth of it, and they always say truth hurts. And that's what happened there, and that's why she started crying and using her tears then against Kieran for everybody to look at Kieran to say, look what he's done to me, when in actuality there was context to the situation. But certain people are going to conveniently forget the context that was there. So then you see Trey speaking and how he's saying that he felt sorry for Harriet. Why? Because she cries. Because she steals the emotions from others. So now Kieran is the bad one for telling the truth. Because Kieran as a lad has made a girl cry. Come off it now. Like, seriously, come off it now. So basically, all I'ma say is Jess and her like flirt game is hella strong. Like, she did tell Trey that basically you need to stop with the feeling sorry for her, because this is what Harriet does all the time. Like, when she gives it and someone gives it back, the tears will come, or she will just straight walk off and then will do whatever it is that she's got to do, because she needs everybody on side. That's what she does. She galvanizes people by her tears, basically, and that's what Jess was explaining to Trey. And then as Jess dropped that conversation, as she does, she then decided to come on strong as hell to Trey, as she does. And I'm like, is it kind of like keeping mean, or is it keeping keen, keep it mean, keep him keen kind of thing? And I'm like, with the shit that Jess does, I would be running for the hill. So Joey, or Howie, I should call him, grabs Jessie for a chat. And I was like, really, Joey? Really? So Grace is sitting down next to Nicole, and Nicole's trying to tell Grace about how she doesn't have nothing to worry about. And I'm like, Nicole, don't do that. Don't blow smoke up this girl's ass. And this is another thing, is the fact that Grace will come back after backbiting with Harriet and Matilda in regards to the non-reaction or non-action of Nicole in regards to what Kieran said, tells me these girls really don't like each other in the slightest. They just tolerate each other at the end of the day. They're involved in each other's messiness, and that's where the book will stay. So Howie is seeking Jessie to have a chat. So Jessie's basically saying to Joey about the fact that, you know what, Grace gave me closed off for you. And Howie is basically saying that they are close, there is feelings there, and basically it would be silly for him to close things off, and that his date between himself and Jessie was the best date ever. And I'm like, Joey is an actual fickle man. Like, seriously, this man really thinks he can have his cake and eat it with these two girls at the moment. Like, he is really thinking, because there's no one in here for Grace right now, he has nothing to worry about. But there's another gal in here that actually likes him as well. So he wants to see if this connection will work with this girl, because you know what? Howie thinks he can play in people's faces. He thinks he can literally have Grace hanging on a thread while he does what he does with Jessie. I'm like, you know what? If another dude came in for Grace, this man, Howie Bowie, yeah, would not be cool, calm and collected with it in the slightest, yeah, because he basically is saying that he's all about Grace. And nah, no, 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 he's not all about Grace. Howie is all about himself. That's who he is. He's gonna spread himself very thinly and come up with nothing at the end of the day. So my thing is I think on the flip side as well is how he believes in these ratings when it comes to the public. Yeah. So him being at the bottom with Grace rattled the frick out of him, and at no point did he believe that it was his own behaviour that caused him to be at the bottom with Grace. No, he blamed Grace. He blamed Grace due to the Omar situation, and I'm just like, at the end of the day, I am just realising how sneaky how his behaviour is. Oh, yeah, because Howie ain't right. And you all know who I'm talking about when I say Howie. It's aka Joey Essex. He's not right at all at this moment in time. So basically Grace is sitting on the sidelines and she is hella worried about the chat that Howie is having with Jesse. Howie is basically saying he's in his rights to explore. He's kind of fishing for compliments, basically. And I'm like, how can you be playing in Grace's face in the way that you are? But the difference with Grace is she ain't no Harriet. She has her barriers and she has her boundaries, and she's setting her boundaries for Joey just right. She's telling Joey at the end of the day, yeah, she ain't going to be in no triangle with nobody. Not at all. And she will let that man fly if that's where he needs to be. Do you know what I mean? She will let him be the hoe that he wants to be at the end of the day, is what I'm saying. So Joey is basically saying to Jesse how he's not had this flowing conversation with anyone before. And I'm just sitting there like, well, what in the hell is your conversations with Grace entailed, like, for really? What the fuck have you two been talking about if you have not had flowing conversations at all? Because when the camera cuts to you two and used to Grace and Howie are talking, their conversations are flowing like water at the end of the day. There ain't no problem in their conversations that I can see. But if you like can see it, then please let me know. At this point, Howie is being disrespectful as all get out. So basically Joey has not pulled Grace for a chat at all. So at that point Grace is basically saying that if he wants to talk to her, he needs to come find her at the end of the day. She is not going to chase him and make him think that, you know what, he's got a cat in the house chance of making her jealous, or this is how the situation's going to be between us two, me chasing after your tail. Ain't going to be the one. Is not going to be the one. Kieran is basically saying that with what happened at the fire pit with the drinking game, he went a little bit turbo. Harriet basically is off on one and saying that Jess and Nicole can fuck off because they are not her best friends, because they haven't said one word to her about the situation or followed after her ass because she was crying. I'm just like, but who are you? Who are you though, for real? At the end of the day, you need to keep it real. You need to keep it 100. Me, myself, would I have followed after Harriet after that display? No, I wouldn't, because I'm like, I'm sick and tired of you getting into fucking drama, and then because you can't handle your own or stand on business, you use your tears to weaponize against the people that's standing on business. So no, I wouldn't have followed Harriet either. I was like, these people are full on superficial up in here. And basically Jess, at the end of the day, never gave friendship vibes to Harriet. At the end of the day, she tolerates Harriet because they're up in this situation together. Harriet was the one that's always constantly trying to beg a friend from Jess when she knows Jess don't like her. So I don't know what that is about. So when they're getting ready for night time, you see Harriet, you know, still in their fucking way. So Jess turns around and says, is there a problem? This is when Harriet gets brave, because don't forget, she's in front of all the other girls now. She's going to save face, so this is when she gets brave. So she got brave and literally shouted at Jess, you know, saying, why do you have to make someone feel like that? So I'm like, whoa. So is Harriet blaming Jess for how that game went? Is Harriet blaming Jess for the drama that was caused? Because it wasn't Jess. Jess didn't say a fucking word. The only time Jess said a word was when that girl got up to leave and said, well, actually, if you give it and you can't take it, then you have no business having an argument with a person. That's the only time Jess opened her mouth, because it was Matilda that was stirring the pot in the first place. So Jess says, one, it was a fucking game and you need to chill a bit. And if you give it out, you should be able to take it, hun. So Jess then walks off. As says, at the end of the day, I don't think Jess was being mean with what she said at all. Harriet always wants to play the woe is me card, and I'm sorry, it might be unpopular opinion, but it's kind of wearing thin at the end of the day. So Jess walked out of the room calling Harriet an idiot. Matilda was there about, oh, there is no need to carry it on. I'm thought, Matilda, you have that chat with Harriet, because it's Harriet who keeps spinning this yarn and keeps carrying on the narrative that Jess is somehow to fucking blame for what the fuck Kieran said when she is not at the end of the day. And then she had the audacity to tell Jess there is no need to say stuff like that. But Matilda, you was the one stirring the pot in the first place. You was the one stirring the pot in the first place. So Jess turned around and said, you know what, whatever, and walked away. I would be the same. So basically Grace is sitting there and she wants Matilda to sleep on the daybeds with her. So Matilda goes back in and explains it to Sean as to why she's going to go and keep Grace company for the night. And I'm like, yeah, at the end of the day, it's way too much between you and Joey, because Joey is being a real hoey for real, and the shit is about to get real for Grace soon enough. So then it comes to the daytime. Basically he's saying that Jess has had no conversations with Harriet or with anybody else. She don't want to. She's done with that bullshit at the end of the day. So Howie basically is saying that he's going to speak to Grace today. We'll see when that happens, because it's taken a long fucking time for this man to go speak to this gal. Anyway, so Harriet, as I already said, is now wanting Kieran to give her an apology, because she believes Kieran owes her an apology. Kieran don't owe her bugger all, to be fair. It's not his fault how she perceived what he said and did what she did, because it was the truth. Why is he going to apologise for saying the truth at the end of the day? Ronnie is basically talking to, I think he's talking to Howie and saying that it's pathetic, and if it carries on, he thinks then Kieran is disrespecting him. I'm like, dude, really? Or because Harriet cried and got embarrassed by the truth, really? Because at the end of the day, Kieran wouldn't have been able to say that shit if Ronnie hadn't put Harriet in those positions in the first place. So Grace basically is asking Jessie if she pulled Howie for a chat, because she wants to know what happened last night. So Jessie is basically explaining to Grace exactly what happened. And I'm like, if you want to find out these things, because these girls do this shit all the time, if you want to find out these things, go ask the man. Like, seriously, go ask Joey and ask him what happened. I said, and even if Jessie did pull Joey at that point in time, she is a bombshell. She don't owe Grace anything. All I'm going to say is Sam must be sitting there gleefully rubbing her hands together and smiling, because this is karma to its highest degree, like full-on karma to its highest degree, because Grace seems to forget that she came into that villa as a bombshell. And the shit that she caused, the shitstorm that happened afterwards between Joey and Sam. And you're telling me that you really believed that Joey was not going to do the same thing, even though Grace has had previous knowledge of this man on the outside world, so knows what it is to be hooked up with Joey. But yet, this is all coming as a surprise to her. Okay, so Grace is there saying about, unless Howie comes with the correct energy and says it is you, and not to get to know Jessie anymore, yeah, because apparently his behaviour right now has put her off him, she's done. I'm like, why wait till then? Like, seriously, why would you wait for Howie to come to you at all when his behaviours are freaking showing you exactly who he is right now? Do you know what I mean? So why would you still wait for him to come to you and give him chances? It don't make no sense to me at all. Because if you've gone off that person and that person is giving you the full-on ick and you really don't like what they're doing right about now because they're doing it against your person, then there's no possibility then that person can come back from that. I think Grace needs to have that chat with Joey to tell him, you know what, it's done and dusted right there and then. Nobody wait for him to come and tell you shit in your ear roll. Because all Howie's going to do is tell you what you want to hear. That is what he's going to do. So basically, Grace is talking about how she takes time to open up. And I think it's due to the fact that, as she explains, she's heard or overheard Joey explaining to others, or others have said, that there wasn't any deep conversations between her and Joey, and that's what he's basing off his now newfound connection with Jessie, is that they've been able to open up and have these deep conversations. At the end of the day, again, I will ask, what is it the fuck that these two were talking about for all this time? I do not know. I really do not know. So Ronnie and Howie are having a chat, and basically Howie is saying that he likes Jessie, but doesn't like that he caused upset, and he wants to commit and wants a future wife. Bollocks. Howie don't want no future wife. Howie just wants a gangbuster that he can fucking play with, basically. He just wants a little toy. Jessie is the new toy that's coming, that he's found, and he wants to be able to play with it, and he doesn't want nobody else to touch it. The same with Grace, because he wants to keep her on side, because he's kind of like, I licked it first, it's mine. So Howie don't know what the fuck he wants at the end of the day, and no future wifey watching this show is really gonna want a man who's as flaky as Howie is at the end of the day. Now my thing is you can always have a war between your head and your heart, but at the end of the day, if you know where exactly your heart is lying and your heart is winning out from the war with your head, then you go with what's in your heart. And that's why I said Howie be playing too much. Howie be playing too much. I says, Jessie came in not more than 5 minutes ago and he's all over the place. He's all over the place. Because at the end of the day, him and Grace were working towards being closed off. So I'm just like, boy, please, with your actions right now, it ain't the one. It really ain't the one. You see Harriet having a chat, basically. I kind of do agree with her in part, in the fact that she doesn't understand how giving friendly advice to Nicole went the way it went with Kieran. And I said, that's because Nicole went back and chatted what you were chatting to Kieran. It pissed Kieran off no end. And because everything that had happened with Nicole, and I think he was getting frustrated with the situation that was happening with Nicole and all her insecurities and him having to deal with that and her up and down behaviours all the damn time, to the point where people keep ragging on his age all the time. Bearing in mind, he is more mature than most of the righty people up in there who are supposed to be mature, yeah? That's when it all came out of the fire pit, and Harriet caught the brunt of it because, you know what, Harriet said what she said. That was it, pure and simple. Ronnie is having this chat with Kieran and basically saying how he feels mugged off, and basically saying he doesn't condone a man that makes any woman cry. I said, understandable on the flip side of it, but at the end of the day, don't start shit and expect no backlash, is what I'm saying. So basically, Ronnie is trying to force Kieran to apologise. He doesn't like to see her cry. So basically, in order to sort that out, you need to apologise to her, to like strong arm Kieran into an apology. And I'm glad Kieran stood on business with it. He turned around and he said to Ronnie, no, I'm not going to apologise because I have nothing to apologise for at the end of the day. And I'm going to stand with Kieran. What the frick are you going to want him to apologise for? What's he apologising to Harriet for if he doesn't believe he owes her an apology? Just an apology to save face? Nah, man, Kieran has got more principles than any of you up in that fucking villa. And he stood on it. He stood on it. He was not going to talk to Harriet for one, and he was not going to apologise to that girl because he saw nothing wrong with it, and that's what he told Ronnie. So Ronnie will have to lump it and leave it when it comes to Kieran, because he ain't doing that shit. Jessie then pulls Will for a chat, right? And I had to take a step back because Will said he was interested in her. I was like, really? Because I did not see that one coming. So he was asking her, other than like, you know, Joey, who else she kind of likes in there. She said Kieran has basically shut that shit down. So she would have liked Kieran, but Kieran's not an option. So she kind of says Howie and Will. And so they're talking about the situation where he is with Uma. And he's basically saying that when he first came in, he was feeling Uma at the time. Like he was only in there for her. And I knew it. I knew that's what he came. And he then talks about how things may have changed. And I'm like, well, does Uma know that, my dear? Because I don't think she rightly does, in terms of how you're thinking and feeling in regards to your situation may have changed with Uma at the end of the day. So I'm like, Will is another one to watch, because he's another one that's going to fly under that radar and think we won't pick up on his shit, but we will. So Howie at last goes to speak to Grace. it did not end well with these two in the slightest. So it was back to the niceties with how are you? Fine. How are you? Fine. And I'm like, nah, man. Just say it as it is, how you're feeling at the end of the day. So Howie's trying to say that nothing has changed in regards to his feelings with Grace. So Grace is basically putting him on blast and saying, well, with the whole factor of the deep chats, shouldn't make him think that something is missing between them, because at the end of the day, he's not asked Grace anything about herself to be considered, let's go a little bit deeper with each other. But then also on the flip side, Grace has not asked him essentially about any of the deep aspects of what she wants to know about Joey, especially if you're thinking of making this a long-standing relationship and not actually making the same mistakes that you both kind of did when you were out on the outside world trying to get it together with each other. So in this chat, Joey is just kind of coming off with me and I statements and not actually listening to what it is that Grace is saying to him. So then, as it is, it's kind of like a tit for tat situation, because then I kind of see where how his mindset has gone with Grace and why he's doing what he's doing, because he saw Connor picking Grace as though Grace has given Connor the time of day, and that's why Connor felt he could pick Grace in that situation, when that wasn't the truth at all. Grace actually still stood. She didn't essentially shut things down with Connor at the end of the day, but she did kind of let Connor know that actually you're a good guy, but this is where my attention is at the moment with Howie Bowie, right? So I'm like, okay, so this is where Joey's freaking thinking is going, because Connor decided to pair off with Grace. He's now got a bee in his freaking bonnet, so now he's doing this shit against Grace with Jesse. I thought, are you that pathetic? Are you that freaking insecure, Joey? Like, really? That's a game you'd expect freaking Harriet to play? But when he said that, I was just like, oh, okay. So this is where it's all stemming from. It's because Grace is with Connor and he believes that Grace is literally giving Connor the time of day when she isn't. I felt throughout that whole conversation it was more about Grace trying to defend herself and her morals against Joey, and Joey not seeing where he has made the interpretation of any type of discussion she's had with Connor and then the subsequent being chose by Connor a problem. He's not seeing where he's gone wrong at all, like in the slightest. Joey then, as the conversation ends, starts hugging Grace. Grace is pulling back kind of thing. She's hugging him. Yeah, she's allowing the hugs and everything. And then you could see that Joey's angling for a kiss, and Grace kind of turns her head and Joey catches her on her cheek, but then he moves his face and then catches her on the lips, and then Grace is like, well, who said you could kiss me? And I'm like, really, my girl? Really, well and truly, you know you wanted that kiss, because straight after that they're hugging and they're kissing. She gets up from the chair again, he's kissing her fully, and then that's when you see the camera span to Will and Jesse, and Will saying, oh well, maybe they've sorted their situation out, and Jesse's kind of like, yeah. So Jesse's seen all of this interaction with them two kissing, and I'm like, Grace, come on now, you stood on business. And now you just fucked up by allowing this man to put his lips on you, knowing full well he needs to sort his shit out when it comes to Jesse. So then the text comes in and they have a VIP performance, and it's like, EVE, who's that girl? Na 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 na. All I want to say is these people really don't know no other song but that song that she sang. You see Will talking to the lads and saying that he's happy with Uma, but says Jessie needs to do what she has to do. And I'm like, these people have short-term memory loss up in here, because I'm sure not 5 minutes ago Will was chatting to Jessie about how things have changed with Uma, but yet now he's happy with Uma because Will was trying to lay the groundwork for Jessie in order to say, well, you know what, I'm open. Just remember that I'm open, and things have changed with Uma. I'm not in it as I was in it with Uma as I am now. So, you know, take that into consideration. These people are bullshit. So, you get Howie now saying that his sights are set on Grace. Pull the freaking other one, right? And I'm just kind of like, that's where that conversation should have stopped. Howie is like a kid in a candy store at the end of the day. And Now he's chatting up Grace, even though he told everybody in that villa, like, the conversations with him and Grace are not that deep, and the connection with Grace is not that deep because of the conversations. But now he's had this one conversation with Grace and said basically to Grace that, you know what, you are it for me, kind of thing. You know I'm about it, baby. I'm paraphrasing. That's what he said to her. And I'm kind of like, if that was the case, then why are you still wanting to get to know Jessie? Why are you still wanting to get to know her if Grace is the one you want to be with again? So, Eve actually did ask what Eggy Buff meant, and that was the funniest thing ever because the guys went off. I'd have to say that the whole performance and everything like that with Eve, it was the best VIP ever on this show. Ever on this show. That's all I'm going to say. I was kind of like, these girls really don't have no rhythm, and neither do some of the guys, and you know which ones I'm talking about. So after that is finished, everybody's still hyped. And I'm like, the text comes in and the couples had to line up and try, and Jessie had to stand on the stage, and I'm like, okay, so it's time to pick people right here and now. I said, this villa has no chill. 1 minute it put them on a high, and the next minute, boom, dum, 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 they're on a low. Everybody was shitting themselves. So it was time for Trey and Jessie to steal. And my first thought was, I don't think after the display that Jessie saw between Howie and Grace, I thought, yeah, there's no way she's going to pick that dude. I think she might go for Will. That was my first thought, because I thought, you know what, this girl will have something about her. Don't pick Joey, because at the end of the day, you can see that there's some kind of situation going on brewing between Grace and Joey. Don't go down the realm of difficulty. You really don't need it. So Trey basically said, he picks the person who is right in his mind and heart, and walking in, this person caught his eye straight away, and he believes there's more than meets the eye, so he picks Jess, which of course we knew was going to happen. So it's Jess's turn to pick. I was kind of thinking, okay, if this is the point of a double dumping, because I'm like, well, depending on who she picks, there's going to be two people left with nobody, do you know what I mean? Joey and whoever other guy that she picks if she don't pick Joey. So basically she's saying that she's going to go with her gut. So Will, with his chest, turned to Uma and said she will probably pick me. And I thought, yeah, because Will, you've been playing these low-ras games, flying under the radar when it comes to Uma, do you know what I mean, with Jessie. So Uma turns around and says, she better not fucking pick you. I'm like, okay, well, let's hope Uma don't get what she wished for, because I think Jessie was quite close to picking Will and Joey. It was literally a stretch down the middle for them two. So she turned around and she picked Joey, and I was like, okay, but I don't know why, even Joey himself, I don't know why everybody looked shocked. I don't know why people did not expect that, bearing in mind Joey was laying the land from the day they had the fucking date with each other, do you know what I mean? So Uma was a bit insensitive because she started laughing. I thought, yeah, nah, don't do that, Uma, because at the end of the day, you will just put a strip away from losing Will to Jessie, because Will is basically flying low behind your back, basically, and saying things have changed between you two, but you ain't telling that to your face. At the end of the day, there was nothing funny. There was absolutely nothing funny, and Uma needed to settle herself on that point. So, again, Joey all but strong-armed Jessie into picking him, and told Jessie to her face that him and Grace are open. He was completely open. I was like, Sam, where are you to jump up in this melee and say, Grace, I fucking told you so. This man ain't shit. Oh, God. Even Grace said, why is Joey acting all shocked like he hasn't been entertaining her all week? And I was like, it's the backbiting against Jessie that I didn't really like after that. Because at the end of the day, I think Grace fully forgets how she came into the villa and the shit that she did behind Sam's back and in front of Sam's face when it came to her stealing Joey off of her. So I part calling kettle black on that situation. Yes, Grace can get mad with the situation because I think her and Joey were a little deeper in than when it came to Sam and Joey. But at the end of the day, still kind of same thing. Jessie's a bombshell. Grace was a bombshell. Jessie owes Grace no loyalty at all. It's Joey who owes the loyalty to Grace. But Joey, Hoey, was playing games. Joey basically says he doesn't know what to do for the best, and he's basically putting this whole responsibility onto Jesse's bloody shoulders for picking her, and making Jesse feel like absolute shit for picking him when he knows he laid the groundwork to be picked. He all but slobbered on this girl to be picked, and now he's kind of making her feel like shit for picking him. Joey and his behaviours are absolutely gross. I'm sorry, they are. Grace is should be happy to be out of that scenario. So Matilda's basically saying to Grace and propping her up that either it's a lesson or a blessing at the end of the day. So I was like, okay. So Grace ends up responding back to Matilda in regards to what she said about the lesson or the blessing, and she goes, amen to that, sis. And I'm like, no, don't do that, please. I have to say, it annoys me so much when people use black people's sentiments in a sentence and don't necessarily know what the fuck it means to do so. So for her to say, amen to that, sis, no, it didn't fall right. It didn't land right on my ears at the end of the day, but I shall move on from that. Grace is basically on Joey's ass straight away and wants to go and talk to Joey. Joey's there asking her why she being so aggy. I'm like, is Joey a dunce for real? Like, really? He is definitely the epitome of being an emotionally stunted adult, because there ain't no way that he can't see what the issue is here in regards to Jesse picking him and why Grace is fuming at him at the end of the day. I just like, yeah, Joey's a player. Joey's an absolute player. Again, Joey tries to make comparisons with Grace and Connor to him and Jesse, and why? Because Grace brought up the fact that as she doesn't understand why he looked so shooketh by being chose when he'd been entertaining Jesse since he got back in the villa from his date with her. I said, at the end of the day, Grace has basically told Joey, and she said to Connor that she has not been entertaining Connor since they've been a couple with each other at the end of the day. Did she shut that shit down specifically to stop Connor from picking her? No, she did not. She really didn't. And Connor ended up picking her. But she wasn't fully entertaining the man, to be honest with you. From when we've seen them in a couple, she ain't entertaining him the way she was entertaining Joey. I think it's full on pathetic, to be honest with you. And he is using Jesse against Grace because of how he feels with Grace being with Connor. He's playing an enormous game, and I'm telling you, it's going to blow up in his face. So, the only person I would say who should be made to feel like shit right now is Joey. Then you see how he pulled Jesse for a chat, and I thought, are you taking the piss right now? And he then takes her to the terrace. So Kieran is basically saying to the guys, oh, don't make it a thing. But it is a thing, because the terrace has the connotations. Everybody knows what the terrace is meant for. And for a person like Joey, he ain't going to let that opportunity slide. Let's put it that way. So Grace is going off on one when she realises that they've gone to the terrace. So Joey is basically laying it on thick to Jesse now that they're out of earshot of everybody else. So Jesse doesn't at first look like but she ain't buying what Joey is peddling. And I'm just like, this is gonna get messy. Like, full on messy. So basically what happens is Grace, Matilda and Harriet go and sit at the fire pit. So when Grace and Jesse turn around and see them at the fire pit, they're like, oh shit, because they know exactly what's happening, because they can see everything that's going on the terrace from the fire pit. So what then happens is Joey then turns around and gets Jesse to sit on the fucking floor with him, like to crouch down so they can't see them, and take this shit as a joke. And I'm like, Jesse, don't do that. Don't do that with this man. Don't fall into these cahoots with this man against these people, because it ain't going to work out well for you at the end of the day. It's not going to work out well for you, because Joey is not going to have your back in any type of fallout whatsoever. Joey is basically turning around as he's sitting on the floor with Jesse, and saying that he doesn't normally connect with girls the way he has with Jesse. Grace, you can see, is now questioning everything. And yeah, he did. Joey ended up kissing Jesse, I was like, okay, I'm sorry, but this man is a full-on joke right now. And you know that Grace was saying basically that if he ends up kissing this girl, then that's it for her. She will never ever ever speak to him again. It's completely over. And Joey didn't give a shit. He's still ended up kissing this girl. So now, in the next episode, people would be voting for their fave couple, and the ones at risk, it seems as though, will be dumped from the island. I already picked my suppositions, my little, like, you know, I had my little, what do they call it? My little think, and I was thinking that I think Grace and Connor will go, or it will be Harriet and Ronnie that goes. But that is where this episode ended. I'll be back in quick succession with the next episode. As I always say, please hit that subscribe button, please hit that notification button so you know when I'm doing videos. Please comment, like, share and do all the good things that you do, and I'll be back on your screens in quick succession. Speak to you all soon. Peace out.